great to be here, finally. We're sitting down with Mike Stark.
Hello.
Founder and CEO of Media Officials.
Yeah, that's right.
And question number one, that's just basically been burning my mind is, what is the project? What is it? It's not a website. I can see that it's a network of many different resources, but what's the essence of it? I was hoping to ask you and get the answer.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's a network of sites that all interact together and provide a proprietary marketing matrix that is basically reverse engineered to optimize as high as possible on organic searches on search engines. And that's just one of the aspects of the advantage we have to the business model that we've created. On top of that is the content sharing platforms that we've created. So if one site, say News Officials, wants to produce information for tech officials, they can interlink, share that content, backlink to each other, which search engines pick up on. Like one of the top things that search engines look at are the number of backlinks that individual sites have. And the fact that we own over 1,000 domains and websites that are growing, all linking to each other, is going to give us a major advantage when it comes to organic search engine results. And so that's kind of how the idea came about, the foundation of it. But on top of that, there's the brand that is very catchy. It's an official brand. It's official. It transitions across, all the most popular and profitable sectors of the internet. So it's
I was gonna answer about the whole officials thing, because it does sound like whatever you say, whatever you put out there, it's basically you're putting your foot down on the internet and telling everybody that whatever's been happening before, this one is official. So basically, let me see if I understand this. What is the product here? Is it information? Is it content? Is it opportunity? Is it traffic? Is it something else? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, the core of Media Officials is really the creating proprietary content and the matrix that links to each other, which creates traffic. And once you have the traffic, then you can look at what markets you want to get into. Like most of the companies and platforms like Facebook and Google, they've created platforms and they just focus mainly on advertising, like Facebook, where Google is more into other services now that they've grown to become one of the biggest companies in the world. But what we're breaking into is e-commerce, and one of our major focuses is the travel sector, which is one of the largest, most profitable online businesses you can get into. The largest player in that space is the Priceline Group. The valuation is over $60 billion. And so they're now a partner of Media Officials, and we work together on our brands. We have over 100 travel brands with Trip Officials, Hotel Officials, Vacation Officials, Flight Officials, could go on and on. But so they've agreed to work with us. We have their technology, their booking engine, their infrastructure, and we use our brand and our infrastructure and our matrix of sites to generate traffic to direct them towards booking on our travel sites. So that's just one of our e-commerce streams.
Well, I was going to ask you about your partners. How do you select your partners? Do they find you? Do you look for them? What's the process of selection? Do you work with just about anybody? Do you have any criteria for selecting affiliates, advertisers? So I'm sure it's an interesting topic.
We will. We want to work with the best and the biggest and the most credible out there. So when we're thinking, we really started with travel. Was the first e-commerce sector. The Trip Officials brand was, we thought, such a powerful brand that. And then we started researching the travel space and understood how massive it is and how profitable it is. So we focused in, and the first thing we did was we looked for who's the biggest player in this space and who has a creative, entrepreneurial sort of culture within their management that we can work with as a new startup. It's hard to break into a company with $60 billion valuation. But our brand caught their attention right away.
Right.
They loved it, and they didn't want us going across the street with it because they saw the potential, the long-term strategy of having a matrix that will, once it grabs a foundation momentum on organic search, it's really going to be very powerful. So they saw that. They decided to give us access to their API, their open source code. So we built our series of travel sites. So yeah, we look for, who's the biggest, who's the most credible, but at the same time, who has like a culture that will fit our culture as a new startup. So those are some of the things.
So the keyword is startup.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I have to ask,
Yeah.
I mean, startups on everyone's mind nowadays.
Yeah.
Aren't you afraid? Is there a fear that the whole thing is going to fold at some point? Because just like new restaurants, new networks, new businesses, basically it's a huge challenge the first year, the first couple of years, to get all that, get the money together, get people excited, get people interested in what you do. How do you handle that?
Yeah, it's something you think about all the time. It's a belief in the business, and I started the business approximately 5 years ago. Started building it, started buying the domains, started working on the vision for the company, and I have been through several startups, all 9 business startups, and the one thing you think about is your vision for that individual startup or idea. And then you're so passionate about it, sometimes you forget to focus on how you're going to get customers. So you spend a lot of money and time building the product, bringing it to market, and then you get there and you're like, okay, now I got to go on Google and compete against people with multi-million-dollar advertising budgets. So the goal around Media Officials was to build a source of traffic first, and that's the foundation of the business. And so we understand the way that search engines rank businesses organically. So we've created a matrix of sites around that concept. And then as we're building those sites, we're then adding our revenue generators into those. And we started with a great team of backers, including myself and some other experienced people that have been through startups.
I was going to ask you about the backers, because I'm looking at the list of them, and it's pretty substantial. It's very impressive. Bank of Ireland's on it. And Ireland, we all know, is the country that's gone through some serious financial troubles lately. Nevertheless, the Bank of Ireland is backing up an internet startup, basically. So do you have any mojo to convince these people to work with you? How do you get them to to sort of lower their guard and go, hey, this is a great opportunity, this is a brand new startup that's going to go places, so let's back them up? How do you do that?
Well, back up a little bit. Dublin is now emerged as probably the fastest growing tech sector in Europe at the moment.
Right.
They're recovering from the subprime mortgage crisis like everyone else, so it wasn't just Ireland. And so, the Irish or the Celtic Tiger is coming back. They're the headquarter for Apple, Google, Facebook, Airbnb, and hundreds of other new tech companies.
European headquarters.
European headquarters are all in Dublin now. And the Bank of Ireland is very aware of this, and they're involved with all those companies, and they're looking to fund startups. So one of our backers is an accounting firm in Dublin who happened to know people at the Bank of Ireland and introduced us to the tech investment sector for the Bank of Ireland, and they spent a lot of time doing their due diligence. I think the thing that gave them the confidence to back us was the management's experience that we've had, but the concept really of all these sites and domains. If you know about sort of domain markets and the domain resale market, and you understand what the price of domains sell for, like there's stories back in the day, 10 years ago, where individual domains like loan.com, I can't remember exactly, but it was in the multi-millions dollars for one domain. So there's an asset there just in the domains that we have. And the fact that we have over 1,300 domains that all have the same brand officials in it, they're 2-word domains, and they all have the top keywords that are covering the most popular and profitable sector of the internet. So there's an asset there behind the business that's worth a few $1 million. And then there's also investors, myself, that have put money in. And then the Bank of Ireland just, that was enough for them to say, okay, this is worth backing. Let's take a chance on these guys.
You mentioned that you've put your own money into this enterprise, into this huge, great beginning, and not only it's commendable, it's risky, and basically tells people that you're ready to go all in.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, lots of factors play into a game when a player decides to go in. Team, first of all.
Yeah.
How do you set up your offices? How do you select your team, people that you work with? Because it's important. I mean, you might be the best entrepreneur out there, but then there's a human factor. So how do you find people to work with? How do you select your team? Talk about that.
Yeah, well, that's one of the toughest things to do in a startup. Usually you try and work with your network that through your investors, partners, and get referrals. Then other than that, you work with local recruiting companies, HR companies. You go through the interview process, but it's usually a gut feel. When you meet someone, obviously they got to meet all the checks on the resume, especially if you're dealing with technical or programming people. That's definitely something they have to check off on. But then you meet them, and then you ask them, what other success projects have you had, and see how passionate they are and how they react to the ideas. And then you get into the more creative side of the business, where it's even more of a gut feel, where designers and you can look at some of their work and see if their style matches yours. But yeah, so once you get a core team, and it's important to have that everyone to jive together, to get along in atmosphere.
You ever been smitten with someone? It's like you look at a person, you look at their work, and you go, hey, that guy or that girl, she must or he must work for me, no matter what. I don't care what kind of money they ask for, they need to be working for me.
Definitely. We have that now. Our initial team we put together, it just has that energy, that vibe. Things are going right. They're coming together. I've been through other, startups. You get those, speed bumps unforeseen. It could be some code or wrote that you have to go right back to the beginning. But, we're having a great start with that great team, and it's working well.
It's
pretty
great.
happy.
Well, let's go back to the negative.
Okay.
Negatives out there.
Yeah.
Industries that you avoid. Is there such thing? Going back, I forgot who said that. That's the Roman thing. Titus, I think it was, who set up sewage in Rome. Yeah. And he's been sort of dissed for that by the patrician society, to which he answered, money doesn't smell.
Okay.
So does money smell to you?
It's not really about the money. It's more about where we're taking the company from a sort of core product and staying away. Since we're a media and an e-commerce company combined, our media focus, we want to stay away from the clickbait, the fake news kind of stuff. We really want to make the core product high quality, useful content that matters. That's why we've created sites like Climate Officials, Rights Officials, the Environment Officials. Like, our goal is to grow our e-commerce on our travel sites and our shopping network sites, so that we don't have to rely on news as our sole source of revenue, so we can publish news that matters. We're not sit there, publishing clickbait and cat videos. We want to talk about things that matter and try and bring that back into the mainstream, and let our other revenue streams, support that business. So that's what we want to stay with, and on the e-commerce side, we want to stay away from regulated industries or risky industries, or stay with the mainstream stuff that works.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the content model that you use, because there, as far as I know, there are two popular content marketing models. Model one is the one when you create an interesting, shareable, likable content and hope that people will flock to your sites, and basically consume that content if it's a normal manner of speaking. Yeah. And then model two is when you do a keyword search and basically give people what they already want, what they're already clicking on, what they already like to get on the internet. So which model is closer to your heart?
Well, we want to give people, what they're looking for. So, our matrix is designed for that, to rank high on the organic searches. And so we publish content relevant to that. However, the news sites that we have, we might not publish the most popular content, but we'll publish the highest quality and what we feel is the most relevant and important to the issues of today. And and that takes us back to our business model. We're not going to rely on the celebrity clickbait content as our core media strategy. We want to publish, and cover topics that are important to us and that we feel important to the society in general.
No, that's very commendable. I like that. So you mentioned that you've been gathering this thing, you've been putting it together for the last 5 years. So would it qualify you as a pioneer, a trailblazer, someone who's been, at the very beginning of the internet marketing, or do you think that do you know of anybody that you could honestly call your inspiration, your mentor, your competitor, some other sources, some other firms? Talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think we're trailblazing pioneer. I think the thing that's unique is that we have over 1,300 domains that are two-word popular keyword domains that all have the official's brand in it, nenden.com. Like that, I think, is impossible to duplicate. No one's done that before. From the media side of the business, the people that I think I respect the most in the space today that are doing something that we would like to emulate is Vice News, who are out there. They're to me publishing the most interesting and relevant news and the fun stuff. They have some great fun shows.
So it's kind of fun without the clickbait, basically.
Yeah.
They're not, if they're showing a cat, it's not just something cute.
Yeah.
It's not for, for the ladies, that cat's gotta be, coming out of someplace, and that cat needs to go someplace. It's not just an abstract cat. Yeah, I'm all for that. Okay, so we're sitting down in Kiev.
Yeah.
Not many people talk about Ukraine in terms of cradle of IT entrepreneurs, for the modern world.
Right.
Mostly it's on the news as something, something iffy. Not many people know about this, but whoever knows is basically the questions of aggression, Crimea, et cetera, et cetera. Why Kiev? Why not Moscow? Why not Minsk in Belarus? Why not Moldova? Why Kiev?
Well, it's we were originally setting up our headquarters in Dublin, which is still our headquarters. A partner of mine from another business ended up marrying a girl from Kiev, so
Understandable.
So he was trying to convince me to come out and spend some time here, maybe open up an office. They were starting a family, and so I came out here. And at the time, we were building our IT team, and unbeknownst to me, Kiev is a hotbed for talented, high caliber programmers, and there's a lot of outsourcing IT companies here. A lot of the major US firms use it. And so I started to research this a little bit, and I found out the advantages of having an office in Kiev. I met a few of the programmers. I got to know the culture, and decided it was a great spot to set up sort of an IT division for the company.
Where did the idea come from? What's the source?
Yep.
What was that morning when you woke up and decided to go with all this?
Well, okay. Well, it's kind of a fun story. It was a few years ago. I just moved to Barbados in the Caribbean after I sold a successful startup in Toronto. Take a little time off, sort of work on my next project, and do a little surfing, get some sun, hang out, and
I hear you.
yeah.
Excellent.
So one of the things we were thinking of, the new company, was a online stock trading platform. So we're going to create some independent sites to generate traffic, news, education, stuff covering the financial markets. So we're thinking of names. So we eventually came up with the name Stock Officials. And then we came up with the name Forex Officials, and then Money Officials, and sort of, it's like that's kind of the job for the day. Didn't have much to do, so my buddy and I went out surfing. We're sitting out on our surfboards. We're talking about planning a surf trip. And he's like, what about Trip Officials? And so then it was started. That's what really started it right there. I'm like, Trip Officials, if that's available, we're onto something. So we paddled back in on my surfboard, got in there, punched it in, it was available, and spent the next 10 hours just thinking of names that have officials in it, me and my buddy, and having a few cold beers and, thinking
So initially,
of ideas.
initially the idea was to come up with fun names for future domains.
Yeah, stuff that we would want to have businesses that we would be interested in, and like who doesn't want to have like a cool travel company? So
Right.
Trip Officials, we almost decided to just focus on that, and then it just kept growing and growing, and then we decided to focus in on the media and the traffic. Like what's going to get traffic to all these great travel sites, these e-commerce sites. There's a great story and a great brand, but the core of it, we want to get an audience that we control. We don't want to have to go to Google and compete on pay-per-click or buy advertising campaigns of newspapers. We want to have our own traffic source. And so really that's what created the matrix of sites that share content, that publish quality content, viral content.
Great. Well, that begs the next question, actually, about the future of this whole thing. I'm wondering, the future of the media business as a whole, the future of advertising, the future of social media, because it's such a major factor in our lives nowadays. We can't really dismiss it. Even those who claim that they don't use social media, they don't own a cell phone, or I'm not sure if there's anyone left on earth that claims that, but it was pretty popular a couple of years ago. I remember people going, hey, cell phones, that's for, I want to go back. I want to go back in time. I want to, go back to the roots. So what do you think the future of all that is going to be? What's it going to look like in a couple of years, in 5-10 years from now?
It's evolving so fast. It's really almost approaching levels of like artificial intelligence where, before you even think of it, you see an ad on your Facebook feed or somewhere, it's coming up on your computer, and there's so much data that people are watching, because really your entire life is now lived through your social media platforms, and people really see things about you that they never used to.
Right.
But it's good and a bad thing in a sense, where it can be intrusive sometimes, but when you want to get something and you want to see stuff that you're interested in, it's there and that's what you see. But then there's also the ads you got to put up with at the same time. So I think people are going to start to develop technologies where they want to define the boundaries between what's intrusive and what's not intrusive. That's going to be an ongoing debate as new technologies emerge, I think. And we want to be involved in that.
What about privacy? Do you, so you have a business model that requires you to have so many different domains. So basically, an issue of internet security, privacy, just needs to be considered. What do you think of that?
Well, definitely. Well, from a security perspective, it's we have a massive network that we're growing with mass amounts of traffic and users and lots of data. So we pay a lot of attention to the security of our information and our data, and we're on top of the latest encryption codes and methods, and so that's we take that very seriously, obviously, and
great.
Yeah,
great. That's because I'm sure it's going to be a concern not only for your affiliates and partners, but your future clients and current ones too.
Definitely.
Hey, that's great, man.
Yeah.
We've had a great time, great conversation.
Thank you.
I'm glad I finally got you to sit down.
Yeah, it's good to be back in
so
Kiev.
hard. So hard to get you off the plane.
Yeah, it's been
traveling
crazy
all the time. Yeah, Barbados, nice.
Yeah, I don't complain about that place. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Okay.